So after this inspired presentation, now we have this panel with about forest, food system, and land use. Are the proxies, not only for carbon capture, but also for the ecosystem service that provide a livable life for all species in the planet. So to learn about the vital link between forest, agriculture, and land use planning, find the balance between food production, forest conservation, and sustainable land use to protect biodiversity, regulating ecosystem, and guarantee food security, I invite for this stage Joana Santos, Rochartre, and Marta Gonzaga. Welcome, and a round of applause, please. So, I think that I will begin with Marta. Marta is an exclusive representative of Forest Watch in Portugal. Marta leads a business development and market expansion in Europe for Forest Watch, and a global platform for monitoring and traceability, compliance, and ESG marketing for forestry and agriculture projects. Marta, it's possible to balance all this mosaic between forest, food system, agriculture, and other sectors and other compatibilities in terms of economic?
Oh, it's possible. It's desirable and mandatory, because there's no way you have fertile soils if you explore it to the most. And laws as the anti-deforestation in Amazon, it's to prevent that, to keep the forest in order you have an holistic
vision and approach.
Exactly, because we are dealing in the last decades with nature as if it's a compartmented, and if everything it's in a different box, but actually everything works together, and we are seeing it now with all the impacts. So yeah, it's mandatory more than...
So it's possible to have a different type of forest, can we say about that? Not only the conservation forest, but also production forest and so on, also to trying to put carbon in construction and so on?
Yes, we are waiting that to happen in terms of the law in Portugal, for instance, but we have an engineer here, correct me if I'm wrong, but...
With the voluntary market
Exactly. You can make more money preserving your forest, even if you have wood to cut later in the process, but if you can sell your carbon during that time, you can make it more sustainable for your organization.
Okay, thank you, Marta. Rochartre is a sustainability expert and partner and head of sustainability at Unobvious Solutions, Forestry Engineering. Luis is from UTAD, a postgraduate in sustainability and at the Stanford Graduate School of Business and Harvard Business School. Is also former director of the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. Luis, with only this kind of mosaic and so on, one of the things that we heard in the presentation is about the ecosystem service. It's intangible. How can we measure that? How can we internalize all these efforts that companies can do in the forest and the agriculture?
I will say that they are very tangible because they are the support of our life. Then it's quite tangible.
That's true.
It's out of the market. This is out a different thing, or out of the economy as we understand the economy. Then what's happening is that we have been trying to develop our models, trying to simplify them more and more, and nowadays we have so many impacts and bad impacts on nature. Then we need to embrace diversity, we need to embrace complexity, and then we have to look at the nature in a different way, not only to catch and to take things out of the nature, but we need to renaturalize the way we manage nature. That's why, for instance, in forestry, we have developed a lot the model of exploration, for instance, the working forests, the intensity plantations, but nowadays we are under, for instance, the guidelines of FSC and other processes. We are trying to renaturalize the way we deal with forests as a whole. Then, nowadays, we are more aware that we need the nature to support our life, and then we are taking care a little bit. We need to take care more, but okay, we are on the way.
But you think that is possible to put this kind of project as with not only the term profit, not in terms of economic way, but in terms of the systems or the service that this kind of forest provide for not only who lives in the cities or who lives in
the people doesn't understand, or the people living in cities doesn't understand well how they depend and how much they depend on nature, because we are living in a okay, it's not a natural
urban area
or urban area, but we depend completely on all of our services. We need oxygen, we need clean water, we need soils, we need food, we need everything that nature provides us. Then what we need is to our economic model have evolved in a way that all of the things that were not working well are externalities, something that is out of the model. The model is perfect with a lot of things that we have put it aside. But nowadays we are integrating, and then we are looking at the way to valorize this, because what's happening today, I'm a forest owner and I provide for free this type of service for society. Then we need to have a balance and trying to match, and the people start to receive money for the important service that they are providing.
Okay, so it's like a regenerative economy model.
Yeah.
Joana, it's the head of the regeneration team of SilveiraTech. Joana have a master in biodiversity and plant biotechnology. Her background includes experience at Tilray, Portugal, and the Maze Botanic Garden. So, Joana, biodiversity is the key of all this service. It's possible, this combination between forest and agriculture, because at the same time the food production also depends on the biodiversity that is provided in the forest.
Yes. So, sorry, I'm a bit nervous. Yeah, of course, it's very important to have biodiversity, especially in forests, because as we see, for example, in Portugal nowadays, the majority of our forests are composed by only one species, which is eucalyptus, and we cannot actually call it a forest, it's just a culture here. Without biodiversity, we don't provide food security, we cannot provide resilience to the forests. And, yeah.
And in terms of species that can be in extinction if we don't care of this kind of forest and biodiversity. Nowadays there are a lot of reports and studies that says that insects are also in one of the the species that were completely how can I say, that can have millions of years and they also supported each other as an ecosystem. Nowadays they are completely in extinction. So how can we protect these species?
So by managing better our forests, we not only create a shelter for them, habitats, we also create more, we make the water being more available for them, which is also very important. And yeah, as we start to create the base of the forests, everything else, like not only the insects, but also other native species, native plant species, sorry, they start to thrive.
Okay, very well.
Yeah.
Yes, Marta, yeah.
Again, I think we should also embrace having these in the cities,
Yes.
not just putting outside of our world, but thinking in our cities as a place where we should have greens and insects and animals.
Like urban biodiversity,
Yeah.
so with green corridors, and so you can make an extension of the forest in the urban areas.
Yeah, we should walk the talk.
Yeah, yeah. So
And it's not only to look good, because, for instance, it helps to have some green coverage and trees on cities, because it will help the regulate the temperature, for instance. It's quite important. But looking at the insects that Joana was talking, and you were referring also, okay, we can eat insects. It's not common here in our culture here in Portugal, but in other places you can eat it. But one of the important roles of the insects are the pollination. We tend only to think about bees, but there are a lot of different insects, and some that are more efficient, even the bees. And we have a lack. The populations have decreased a lot. One of the keystone books that it was written on the awaken of this was in the 60s, was the Silent Spring, and there was something that it was because they didn't anymore listen to the bees or to the insects or the birds. Then this is something that we can have now. I'm a little bit older than you, and I remember traveling
not
by car.
so many.
We do remember,
by car.
yeah, we do remember the insects in the
I'm
heart.
the younger, okay, but I'm just trying to push some. But I remember to have 100 kilometers traveling, and then it was completely covered with insects. Nowadays, you can have one or two or whatever, and it's missing a lot. Then this is a way that we can measure and we can assess and see how big is the decrease of the populations.
Yes, but nowadays the economic model that we put our assets doesn't have in account, as you said in the beginning, to these externalities. How can we put them to give value, to have a forest with more value, to see how can we implement the projects that can be not only in the voluntary market, the carbon voluntary market, but also as international level. That can have the economic impact also at local level.
We have been struggling for many years, because if you look at, for instance, the climate, biodiversity and desertification conventions were approved and started in '92 in the Rio conference. We have more than 30 years, and we are still struggling how to do it. Then, okay, we are not quite efficient. It's taking too much time to find out. We have already achieved, and it was in '97 in the Kyoto Protocol, saying that okay, we need to introduce some market mechanisms. Then you can pay for a type of services. In this case, was only for the carbon, but we are still lacking. For instance, in Portugal, we started this process last year. In the end of last year was the first rule that we have for the markets, and it's not completely, and it's not working yet. Then we are lacking a lot of time to put in place. We already know that for instance, if we want to put it this type of components in our economy, we need to have mechanisms to do that. I believe that we need to go from that. Okay, we have, I will say, absolute concepts regarding how we need to preserve natural areas, we need to preserve the
Regenerate it.
species, but
Yeah.
we need to
Restore.
find the way of introducing in the way the world works also in our economy. Then we need to change our economy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marta, well, a difficult question, but in your opinion, with the increasing of population, with the food security that is necessary also to feed all more than 8 billion people, and also with all this energy transition and this climate transition, how can we make this balanced land use and preserve the forest at the same time? Because nowadays there are a lot of conflicts between the land use. So it's also
I think we have to have laws that are implemented very, very with policy, with courage, and
with vision options.
yeah. Early adopters are rare. There are some companies that are early adopters, but they will act on the laws. They will act on the consequences, and so that
Not
is
in the prevention, also in
no,
the early
that
stage.
conscious. Well, we heard a few hours ago the very rich people don't care, right?
Yeah.
So they want all the comfort. Of course, there's a lot of people that have conscience that don't keep their aircon connected all the time and that consume local. But we need to bring the public, the normal people, for the conversation. They need to ask.
It's not only the obligation, and it's not only the compliance, and also the social and the environmental responsibility. It must be also the communities and also the population to ask for the companies to do it.
We are protecting an economy, we are protecting companies, of course, I do understand, I get it, but we need to protect the environment, so we need to make it harder, we need to make it more expensive to buy some things that are coming from a plane. I want to eat my mango.
Okay.
I do those things too, but
have the carbon tax in the
it has to be higher.
Yeah.
We need to consume local. We have to have more projects like 0 kilometers restaurants that they prove and consume
more
local.
sustainable.
And we need to ask people to
Also to buy it in
and
that
also
way.
to
and
policy.
To make the option. Yeah. And Joana, now in another way, with the impact of climate change and so on, we also need to adapt. And how can we adapt in a restoration project in terms of biodiversity, a forest that can be more adapted for these heat waves and all the impacts that we have with the climate change?
Yeah, so maybe one of the things that we should care in terms of climate change is to plant water. So it means to harvest the water that we get in our land normally and not have an extra input of water. Another one is, for example, to try to understand how the climate is changing and use species that are adapted to these new conditions, not the old conditions, but the new ones.
So, do you believe that this climate change and also is progressive in terms of the adaptation of these species, that we have to put more, not only native or must be native, but more resistant?
Yes.
Okay, native species that are more resistant with this new climate that we will have.
Yeah, because there are some species that have some varieties that are more resilient to, for example, to drought, and we can use those instead of the
even of disease.
Yes, and usually when we use plants and species that are already there and we can propagate them, they are already prone to the resistance of, for example, drought and diseases, because they were already in those conditions and they can be more resilient.
It's a little bit like the vineyards in Douro in the project in the history, when we make more resistance.
It's good that it was not my fault to start talking about wine. It was you. But there is a good example regarding the climate change and the adaptation. For instance, nowadays, all the wine growers, they are looking at what will be the changes, and the type of grapes are moving from south to north.
Yeah.
And what is happening now is that in Bordeaux, one of the wine producers in France, well known, the last time they have revised the allowed grapes that they can utilize, now they have Touriga Nacional and Alvarinho.
Well,
it could be, we will find in the near future Touriga Nacional and Alvarinho as one of the grapes of Bordeaux wine.
Yeah, I saw last week some news about the wine producers in Netherlands or something like that. So
yes.
nowadays
UK
it's already
in
starting
UK.
there.
Okay.
So maybe whiskey will be in South Africa. No?
Well,
Well, Luís,
I wanted just to add up something to projects like the one Joana is participating, benefits from data.
yeah.
It's crucial because it's not viable to have someone all the time checking on the plants, on the trees, if they are recovering, how is the water in the fields, the hydric stress. So all that you can see through data, and that is mandatory to have on the long term, to count with artificial intelligence, with satellites, to these projects of reforestation, of all these things.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, we have to
So-
embrace how the technology is going and
So
to use it.
it's like we said in this morning about KPIs that is necessary to monitoring during all the process.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of KPIs nowadays, air quality, even biodiversity, other KPIs that we can perform.
But until now, and we are seeing all these scandals with greenwashing, it's when you say you're doing something you're not, it's exactly because they're not showing us data. So in that terms, I want to point out also not just the public to ask for proof of what the information they are receiving, but also social media.
That's why, like, if FSC certification, for example, it's also good for this kind of combating greenwashing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but I have a company. In the beginning, I can have good intentions, but then I'm outsourcing this project, right? And also the companies need to make sure that the things they are buying and they are saying to the audience, because there are consequences,
Yeah, of course.
they need to make sure that things are happening. Are the trees alive?
Yeah.
Is the project real?
So also in terms of nowadays, in terms of technology, the Earth observation in terms image that we can monitoring and so on. It's also important also to people see there are real projects that are being monitoring during all the process, because there are long-term projects.
Yes, and if you offset your carbon compensation project in Colombia, and just a few days ago I watched a documentary, and they had one person to a huge land, and they found out no one's watching, so no one can say that those projects are real. Yeah. So either to those projects or to
it's also important to develop a new local service in the economy
Yeah.
to maintains all these projects. It's also
Yeah.
important, Luis.
Yeah, I think it's fundamental because if we start, and sometimes a community, a sustainable community can start, for instance, if you have your own restaurant and you want to have this type of local food and biological production, wherever, and you want, and then you start looking at your partners for the business, and then you can, from one initiative, you can have a lot of them. And most of my experience looking at sustainable issues, the solution is always a community solution for that. Okay, we can have a big community that is our country or the economy, whatever, but then if you want to have solutions, you need to go to the local scale and start doing that. That's why, for instance, our food system it's not working very well, because every day we are eating bananas from South America, or pineapples, or wherever.
And also the industrial
industrial production, and at the same time you have a carbon footprint that it's too big regarding this. And sometimes, okay, they say that this is a biological production wherever, but if you put the carbon in top of that, then you will have a lot of impacts on that. That's why we need to change. That's why it's important, the biodiversity, because you need to have more solutions, and you have to have the same. For instance, you were talking about Douro, the old vineyards. You have a mixture of 50 different types of grapes, because each year it was a balance, because it's better for the good weather, the bad weather, more sun, less sun, wherever. Then it's something
it
that it's, yeah.
And do you believe that it's possible to invert the abandoned rural areas with this new local service? Because we have a lot of years with this desertification, and also everyone lives in urban areas.
I will say that we need to have a different model, but I'm not sure that we can break the urbanization trend that we have. Today, more than 50% of the world population lives in cities, and it's growing and growing. Then I will say that we won't have the solutions to break that, but we can trying to have a different relation with those territories. Sometimes here, for instance, as a forester, we have a lot of forest that it was planted in the 40s, in the last century, because the people were more or less afraid of void. And then we have our mountains, and we need to have trees there. But without managing the trees, then we have a lot of fires now. Then we need to look at the future and trying to see where we want to go, and then to have
balance.
Yes.
Yes, Joana, can you talk about SilveiraTech project that is developing pioneering project regenerating 230 hectares in the Serra da Lousã?
Yes, so SilveiraTech has two big goals. So one of the goals is to create a long-term sustainable tourism, which is going to start next year. The construction of the village is going to start next year. For now, there are only two old schist villages.
Ancient village.
Yes, ancient village. Nowadays, they are without anyone there. They are in ruins. And the other part of the project is to regenerate 230 hectares of land. SilveiraTech is in the center of Portugal, in Lousa, which is a mountainous land. And nowadays it's only a culture of eucalyptus and acacia, and is very prone to fire. It has a lot of soil erosion. It's dry, although it rains a lot there, because when it rains the water gets completely leaked, and we cannot sustain water there. So that's the two main goals of the project.
Okay, Marta, nowadays there are a discussion, even with the strikes of agricultures that we have before the European elections, that European have a lot of legislation, environmental protected legislation. So it's how can we continue to be a neutral continent before 2050, and at the same time to have the industry and the economy and so on, because even with this last report of Draghi report, we have all this difficult to balance because of too big economy potentials, China and USA.
I don't know if I have an answer for that. I don't even think, I can't even understand how we can reach that neutrality. Are we going to mitigate all that footprint we are doing, or we are offsetting? I don't know if we can answer that. I know that our agricultures are fighting, but also the same professionals in other continents or in Brazil, they are fighting against the laws because they are worried it will be much harder to enter Europe from now on. So it's a tough challenge for everyone.
Even with the war in the doors of Europe?
We're always going to have challenges. I don't have an answer for that. Maybe Luis can answer better, but again,
with his experience.
Yeah, but again, with the media and the public, we have to think we can't outsource because someone say that we are going to reach neutrality. We would have to stop consuming.
We should do it inside of our house, but with the good practice.
People are not stopping the high consume, the model that we are living in. So I think that's too innocent. We are buying T-shirts from China at a very low price. So I believe
it's also a behavior transition also.
We all have to be involved. We need to stop speaking in jargons, in complicated words, and we need to say, even if we plant trillions of trees, we don't have enough physical planets to compensate everything that we are
doing.
So, although I work with these things as carbon compensation and all these things, we need to change the way we're living.
And maybe introduce technology to increase the negative emissions.
Oh, technology will be the next step for everyone's documents because they need to prove what they're saying. From now on, technology, it's a thing.
Yes. Luis, do you think that people after the pandemic and so on are more aware it's possible to have this balance?
The awareness has been growing. Nowadays, we are listening in the TV, in the newspaper, wherever the media is talking every day on this.
But the behaviors?
Yeah, but the behaviors, we still have a gap between what, for instance, if you are in an inquiry and say that, are you sustainable, you believe in that, you will say, and then are you willing to pay for anything? They say, no. And what's happening is that this is still a gap. We have been more and more incentives to move and to change. We are still lagging on the objectives. Then we need to go faster.
Yeah.
Because what are the consequences we are already feeling it on the weather, on all the changes that we are facing, and even when we are talking about wine or wherever the agriculture, the products, we are facing the consequences of that. Then what we need is to go faster and to accelerate the pace that we are taking now.
And also with the new restoration law that we, European law that we also approved in the last few months, it's also important to not only to people be more aware of that, but also the policy decision makers and the companies.
It's always
and so
interesting because then the things start to be mandatory. It's not only
It's an
if
act.
you are not voluntary regarding this, it will help. But at the same time, regulators they are lagging a little bit regarding the reality. Okay, we need everyone needs to go faster and to achieve what we want, because at the end the planet will remain here. Maybe our species not.
Yes. So we have running out of time. So in this almost last minute, I would like to have, well, some sentence, a final sentence of you. How do you think that could be the future of forestry and agriculture and the land use? Marta, begin with you.
Oh, I'm an optimist, and I love when I hear those projects like the one Joana's mentioned. I think we need to slow down and try to see the impact of everything we do. I believe in science, of course. I know amazing things they're doing amazing things, like the ones genetic manipulation, so the forests can resist fire. So I don't see an immediate answer for everything we're living, but it's all together work.
So it's like have less and live more.
And don't go for the cheap. Don't
Yes,
think
with
on the
the big
long run.
impact.
And the impact of everything you do. Yeah.
Joana?
I think that the human being needs to realize that we are part of nature, and everything we do has an impact on nature. It's not we do our business in the cities and then we take care of nature and forests on weekends, for example. Everything that we do is within nature, and we really need to understand that.
So we should be more connected and also mimetize nature in our process
Yes, and learn with it.
and learn with nature.
Yes.
To cope with time, okay, I don't have any more time.
No, you have it.
Faster, we need to accelerate and we need to increase exponential the impact, the positive impact, not the negative, the positive impact.
And give the good news to people and also to monitoring this positive impact.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. A round of applause to Joana, Marta, and Luís. Thank you very much to be with us.